The November wind cut through Chicago's Oakwood cemetery like a blade, bitter and merciless. Sarah Chen stood at the edge of her mother's grave, 8 months pregnant, one hand supporting her swollen belly while the other gripped a single white rose that trembled in her fingers. The priest's voice droned on about dust and ashes, about God's mercy and eternal rest. But Sarah heard none of it. She was too focused on staying upright, on breathing through the contractions that had started an hour ago. Stress-induced, the doctor had warned her about these, on holding herself together while everything inside her shattered. Behind her, Marcus Chen stood rigid and cold, his hand not on her shoulder where it belonged, but shoved deep in his coat pocket. She'd tried to hold his hand during the procession. He'd pulled away. "Sarah." His voice cut through the prayer like ice through water. She turned, confused, still holding that white rose. "Not now, Marcus. Please." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Manila, legal-sized, the kind that changed lives. "Sign this." The words didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. Her mother was being lowered into frozen ground. She was 8 months pregnant with his child. The priest was still praying. 50 people were watching. "What is this?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Divorce papers. I already signed them." The rose fell from her fingers, landed on her mother's casket, white against dark wood. "Marcus, what are you... I don't understand. What are you talking about?" He wouldn't meet her eyes, just thrust the envelope at her again. "It's over. This marriage, us. It's better this way." "Better?" The word echoed in her head. Better for whom? That's when Sarah saw her. Victoria Kane stepped out from behind Marcus's parents, who stood 20 feet away beneath a black umbrella that served no purpose. It wasn't raining, wasn't snowing, just bitterly, impossibly cold. Victoria wore a black dress that was too tight, too short for a funeral, her blonde hair perfect despite the wind, her lips curved in something that might have been a smile. Sarah's hand went to her belly. The baby kicked hard, angry, protective. "Tell me this isn't what I think it is." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Victoria and I are together now. She's pregnant. She needs me." The words hit Sarah like physical blows, each one finding soft tissue, vulnerable places. "You're leaving me," her voice cracked. "While I'm pregnant? At my mother's funeral? For another woman who's also pregnant? It's complicated." "It's not complicated," her voice rose. Other mourners turned to stare. "We're married. I'm carrying your child. My mother just died. Nothing about this is complicated. It's cruel." Victoria stepped forward then, bold, confident. She walked right up to Sarah, so close Sarah could smell her perfume. Expensive, cloying, nothing like the simple lavender Sarah wore. "He doesn't love you anymore," Victoria said softly, sweetly, like she was sharing a secret. "He hasn't for a long time. You were just too pathetic to notice." Sarah's hand moved before her brain caught up. The slap echoed across the cemetery. Victoria's head snapped to the side. When she turned back, her eyes were cold, calculating. She smiled. "Thank you for that." Victoria touched her reddening cheek. "Now I have witnesses." Marcus grabbed Sarah's wrist, not gently. "Don't touch her. I'm your wife." "Not for long." He pulled out his phone, showed her the screen, their joint bank account. "Round. I drained it this morning," he said matter-of-factly. $23,000, my money. Victoria and I need it for the wedding." Sarah's legs nearly gave out. "The wedding?" 2 months from now, February 14th. Victoria linked her arm through Marcus's. Valentine's Day? Isn't that romantic? She was going to be sick. Right here, right now, all over her mother's grave. You can't do this, Sarah whispered. Marcus, please. The baby needs... We need... What you need, Marcus interrupted coldly, is to sign the papers and move on. I'm giving you 30 minutes to clear out your things from the apartment. Victoria's moving in tonight. 30 minutes? I've lived there for 5 years. 29 minutes now. He checked his watch. Rolex. The one Sarah had saved for months to buy him for their anniversary. Clock's ticking. He turned and walked away. Victoria followed, but not before leaning close to Sarah one more time. By the way, Victoria whispered, your mother's house? The one you thought you'd inherit? Marcus already had you sign it over to him last month. Remember those papers he said were for refinancing? They weren't. She was gone before Sarah could respond. Gone before Sarah could process. Gone before Sarah realized she was collapsing. Strong hands caught her. Her mother's attorney, James Park, 65 years old and dignified even in crisis. Easy, Mrs. Chen. I've got you. He took everything. Sarah sobbed into the old man's shoulder. My home, my money, my life. Not everything, James said quietly. His voice carried something Sarah couldn't identify. Knowledge, purpose. Not even close to everything. But Sarah didn't hear him. She was too busy watching Marcus and Victoria walk away, hand in hand, toward the parking lot where expensive cars waited. She was too busy feeling her daughter kick inside her, protesting, fighting even before she was born. She was too busy bleeding, not physically, but somewhere deeper. While the priest finally fell silent and the first shovel of dirt hit her mother's casket with a sound like thunder. December 3rd, 2024. The day Sarah Chen lost everything. Or so she thought. What Marcus didn't know, what no one knew except James Park and a handful of attorneys in glass towers downtown, was that Sarah's mother, Catherine Zhang, hadn't been the simple immigrant seamstress everyone believed. She'd been one of Chicago's most ruthless real estate investors, quietly, accumulating an empire worth $800 million over 40 years. And she'd left every single cent to her daughter, along with instructions. Detailed, specific instructions about what to do when the people you love reveal who they really are. Sarah didn't know it yet, but in exactly 6 hours, she would. And Marcus Chen's smug smile, Victoria Kane's cruel confidence, and his parents' satisfied nods would all become very, very expensive mistakes. The trap was set. They'd walked right into it. Now came the reckoning. Scene 2. Marriage backstory, 200 words. 6 years earlier, Sarah had met Marcus at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where she worked as a patient advocate, and he was completing his medical residency in cardiology. She remembered the exact moment. 3 a.m. in the emergency wing. An elderly Chinese woman had come in, terrified and alone, speaking only Mandarin. The attending physicians were frustrated, overwhelmed, unable to communicate. Sarah had been walking by, heard the woman crying. Without thinking, she'd stepped in, translated, held the woman's hand while they ran tests, stayed until her family arrived at dawn. Marcus had watched the whole thing. You didn't have to do that, he'd said afterward. That wasn't your patient. She needed someone. Sarah had been exhausted, running on caffeine and determination. That's enough reason. He'd bought her coffee. They'd talked until her shift ended. Within a week, they were inseparable. Marcus had seemed different then. Driven, yes, but kind. He'd talked about helping people, about making medicine accessible, about his immigrant parents who'd sacrificed everything so he could become a doctor. Sarah had fallen hard. She'd introduced him to her mother, who owned a small tailoring shop in Chinatown. Catherine had been warm but cautious. "He's charming," Catherine had said in Mandarin after Marcus left that first dinner. "But watch his eyes when he thinks no one's looking. They're calculating things." "Mama, he's a doctor. He has to calculate. It's his job." Catherine had touched Sarah's cheek gently. "There's a difference between calculating medicine and calculating people. Make sure you know which he's doing." But Sarah hadn't listened. She'd been 28, in love for the first time, certain she'd found her person. They'd married a year later. Small wedding. Sarah's mother had paid for most of it. Marcus's parents, Robert and Linda Chen, had offered nothing, citing their modest retirement savings. The first year had been good. Marcus had been attentive, affectionate, present. He'd come home after brutal shifts and still ask about her day, still make her laugh, still hold her close. The second year, things shifted. Marcus accepted a position at Premier Cardiology Group, a prestigious private practice. The pay was exceptional. The hours were brutal. He started coming home later, talking less, seeming distant. "It's just the adjustment," he'd said when Sarah asked. "New job stress. Give it time." So she had. The third year, his parents moved to Chicago. Suddenly, they were everywhere. Sunday dinners, weekly phone calls, constant visits. Linda had opinions about everything. Sarah's job, too low paying. Their apartment, too small. Sarah's clothes, too casual. "Marcus deserves a certain lifestyle," Linda had said more than once. "Now that he's a successful cardiologist, people have expectations." Sarah had tried to adapt. She'd bought nicer clothes she couldn't afford, smiled through awkward dinners, pretended she didn't notice how often Marcus took his mother's side in small disagreements. The fourth year, Sarah got pregnant. She'd been thrilled, terrified, but thrilled. This would bring them back together. This would fix whatever had been slowly breaking. Marcus's reaction had been muted. "That's great," he'd said, distracted, scrolling through his phone. "We should tell my parents." Not, "I'm so happy," or "we're going to be parents," or any of the joys Sarah had hoped for. Just logistics. The pregnancy had been hard. Severe morning sickness, complications that required bed rest. Sarah had to quit her job at 6 months. "It's fine," Marcus had said. "We don't need your income anyway." But the way he'd said it, dismissive, almost contemptuous, had stung. Victoria Kane had appeared around month 7. She was Marcus's new medical assistant at Premier Cardiology. Young, ambitious, beautiful. She'd started showing up in his stories. Victoria suggested this new patient management system. Victoria found this great restaurant. Victoria said the funniest thing today. Sarah had pushed down the unease. She was pregnant, hormonal, probably imagining things. Then her mother got sick. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. 6 weeks from diagnosis to death. Sarah had spent those weeks shuttling between her mother's bedside and doctor's appointments for her own pregnancy. Marcus had been absent. "I can't take time off," he'd said. "The practice is too busy." But he'd found time to have lunch with Victoria. 3 times a week. Sarah had seen the credit card charges. When she'd asked about it, he'd gotten defensive. "She's my colleague. We're working on cases. Don't be paranoid." Catherine had died on December 3rd. Sarah had been at the hospital, had held her mother's hand during those final moments. "My clever girl," Catherine had whispered in Mandarin, her voice barely audible. "You're stronger than you know. Remember that. Whatever comes next, remember you're a Zhang woman." We don't break. Mama, don't. In my safe deposit box. Bank of Chicago, branch on Wentworth Avenue, box 447. Key is in my Bible, taped inside the back cover. Everything you need is there. I don't understand. You will. Catherine had squeezed her hand weakly. Promise me you'll look. Promise me you'll be smart, not just kind. I promise, Mama. Those had been her mother's last words. She'd slipped into unconsciousness minutes later, died an hour after that. Sarah had called Marcus. He'd been at the practice. I'll finish this surgery and come, he'd said. He'd arrived 4 hours later, smelling of perfume that wasn't Sarah's. The funeral had been planned quickly. December 10th, 1 week later. Catherine had wanted to be buried at Oakwood, near where she'd first settled in Chicago 40 years ago. Sarah had been organizing everything alone. Marcus had been busy. His parents had been helpful in ways that felt more judgmental than supportive. Your mother should have made these arrangements ahead of time, Linda had sniffed. It's inconsiderate to leave this burden on you. 3 days before the funeral, Sarah had found the text messages. Marcus's phone had been on the kitchen counter. A text had come in, the preview visible on the lock screen. Victoria. Can't wait until she's gone and we can be together openly. 2 more days. Love you. Sarah's hands had shaken as she'd put the phone down. Left it exactly where it was. Said nothing. She'd spent the next 3 days in a fog, planning her mother's funeral while her marriage crumbled silently around her. And now, standing at the graveside, watching Marcus walk away with the woman who'd been plotting with him for months, Sarah finally understood what her mother had meant. Be smart, not just kind. She'd been kind for 6 years. It had gotten her nowhere. Time to be smart instead. Sarah woke in the shelter at 6 a.m. The baby was kicking hard, good morning punches from inside her womb. She hadn't slept. Couldn't. The cot was uncomfortable, but more than that, her mind wouldn't stop racing. Everything you need is in the safe deposit box. Her mother's last words. Sarah sat up slowly. Her back ached. Her feet were swollen. She needed to pee constantly, but she needed answers more. Helen, the night nurse, brought her breakfast: oatmeal, orange juice, a banana. How are you feeling, sweetie? Helen had kind eyes. She'd seen everything in her 20 years at this shelter. Nothing shocked her anymore. Sore, tired, lost. That's normal for where you are, both in pregnancy and in life. Helen sat down beside her. You're about to have a baby. You need to decide what comes next. I don't have anything. No money, no home, no... You have yourself. You have your baby. That's more than some women who come through here have. Sarah wanted to cry again. She was so tired of crying. There's a phone in the office, Helen continued. Local calls only, if you need to make arrangements. Arrangements. Such a clinical word for rebuilding your entire life. But Sarah knew what she needed to do first. Can I use it? Of course. Sarah walked to the tiny office, sat at the desk, pulled out the scrap of paper she'd found in her mother's Bible yesterday. The one with the bank information. Bank of Chicago, Wentworth Avenue branch, box 447. She dialed the number. It rang 4 times. Bank of Chicago, Wentworth branch. How may I help you? Hi, Sarah's voice cracked. She tried again. My mother passed away last week. Catherine Zhang. She had a safe deposit box at your branch. I need to access it. I'm so sorry for your loss. Can you provide the box number? 447. Keyboard clicking, a long pause. Yes, I have that box listed. You'll need to come in person with proper identification, a death certificate, and the key to access it. I have the key. When can I come? Our vault hours are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Saturday. No appointment necessary. It was Friday. She could go today. Thank you. I'll be there this morning. Sarah hung up, sat there for a moment, trying to process. What was in that box? Why the mystery? She went back to her cot, dug through her backpack, found her mother's Bible. The only thing besides clothes she'd thought to grab. The key was exactly where her mother said it would be. Taped inside the back cover. Small. Brass. Ordinary looking. Sarah held it in her palm. This tiny piece of metal that supposedly held answers. Helen appeared again. You need a ride somewhere? I need to get to Wentworth Avenue, the Bank of Chicago. That's in Chinatown. About 3 miles. Too far to walk in your condition. Helen pulled out her phone. Let me call someone. Volunteer driver. Give us 30 minutes. I don't have money to pay. It's free. That's what volunteers do. Helen smiled. Get yourself ready. Big day ahead. Sarah showered in the communal bathroom, changed into the cleanest maternity dress she had. Navy blue, simple, too tight now, but it would have to do. She studied herself in the cracked mirror, dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, face swollen from crying and pregnancy. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman who'd lost everything. But something in her eyes was different, harder, more determined. Be smart, not just kind. The volunteer driver was a retired teacher named Margaret. She asked no questions, just drove Sarah to Chinatown, waited in the car while Sarah went inside. The Bank of Chicago was imposing. Marble floors, high ceilings, the kind of place that whispered old money and power. Sarah felt completely out of place, but she walked to the front desk anyway, head up, back straight despite the ache. I'm here to access safe deposit box 447. My mother, Catherine Zhang, recently passed away. The banker, young, professional, his name tag read David, checked her ID, asked for the death certificate. Sarah pulled out the copy the funeral home had given her. Official, stamped. David examined everything carefully. I'll need to verify a few things. Can you wait here? It'll be about 10 minutes. Sarah sat in one of the leather chairs, tried not to think about how she must look to the other customers. Pregnant, disheveled, desperate. 15 minutes passed. 20. Then David returned with an older man, distinguished, silver hair, expensive suit. Mrs. Chen? The older man extended his hand. I'm Thomas Liu, branch manager. I knew your mother very well. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, Sarah said uncertainly. Why was the branch manager getting involved? Your mother was a valued client of ours for over 30 years. She left specific instructions about this box. About you. He gestured toward a private room. Please, let's speak privately. Sarah followed him, heart pounding. Inside the room, Thomas closed the door, sat across from her. Mrs. Chen, I need to ask you a few questions before we proceed. Are you aware of your mother's financial situation? She owned a tailor shop. She lived modestly. I didn't think there was much. Thomas's expression shifted. Something like pity mixed with admiration. Your mother was one of the most financially astute clients I've ever worked with. She started with nothing when she came to this country 40 years ago. By the time she passed, she'd built a portfolio that would rival some of the wealthiest families in Chicago. Sarah blinked. I don't understand. Box 447 doesn't contain jewelry or sentimental items, Mrs. Chen. It contains documentation of your inheritance. Your mother left everything to you. Everything being... Thomas pulled out a folder, opened it, showed her a single page. Estate summary. Catherine Zhang, deceased. Sarah's eyes scanned the page. Couldn't process what she was seeing. Commercial real estate holdings, $240 million, residential properties, $180 million investment accounts, $220 million business holdings, $95 million cash and equivalents, $60 million total estate value, $800 million. The room tilted. Mrs. Chen, are you all right? Sarah couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. $800 million. Her mother. Her mother who'd clipped coupons, who'd mended her own clothes, who'd driven that ancient Honda, had been worth $800 million. This has to be a mistake. It's not. I helped your mother structure these assets over 30 years. She was brilliant, Mrs. Chen. Absolutely brilliant. She bought properties in the 90s when Chinatown was considered undesirable. She invested in tech startups before anyone understood their potential. She was patient, strategic, ruthless when necessary. But why? Why did she live like she had nothing? Because she understood something most wealthy people don't. Invisibility is the best protection. Thomas closed the folder. Your mother told me once that she didn't want to be a target. Didn't want people to love her for her money or hurt her to get it. So she lived simply, and she built an empire in secret. Sarah's hands shook. I can't. This isn't. There's more. Thomas pulled out another envelope, heavy, sealed. Sarah's name in her mother's handwriting. She left this for you. Instructions. She said you'd need them. Sarah took the envelope, hands trembling so badly she almost dropped it. I'll give you privacy, Thomas said. Take all the time you need. He left. Sarah sat alone in that quiet bank room, holding an envelope that would change everything. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, multiple pages, her mother's neat handwriting. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And knowing the world we live in, knowing the man you married, I'm guessing you needed this sooner rather than later. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I lied to you about our financial situation. I'm sorry I let you think we were poor. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. But I had reasons. Good reasons. I came to America with $200 and a sewing machine. I worked 18-hour days in sweatshops. I saved every penny, and I invested. In 1990, I bought my first property in Chinatown for $50,000. Everyone said I was crazy. They said it was a bad neighborhood. Property values would never rise. But I saw something they didn't. Potential, growth, future. I sold that property 5 years later for $300,000. Bought 3 more, sold those, bought 6 more. Then I branched out. Commercial real estate, residential, mixed use. By 2000, I owned properties across 3 states. Then I discovered tech stocks. Everyone thought the bubble would burst. They were right, it did. But I was patient. I waited. I bought Amazon at $8 per share in 2001, Apple at $7 in 2003, Google at $85 in 2004. I never sold. I just held, and held, and held. By the time you were born in 1996, I was worth $45 million. By the time you graduated college, $200 million. Now it's $800 million, and I hit it all. Why? Because I watched what money did to people. I watched families destroy themselves fighting over inheritances. I watched wealthy women become targets for men who saw them as paychecks. I watched children ruined by knowing they'd never have to work, never have to struggle, never have to prove themselves. I didn't want that for you. I wanted you to develop character first. Compassion, work ethic, humility. All the things money can destroy if you get it too young. So I waited. I let you think we were modest, middle class, comfortable but not rich. And you became everything I hoped you'd be. Kind, generous, strong. But I also watched Marcus. I saw him change as his career advanced. I saw the contempt growing, the way he dismissed you, the way his parents treated you like you weren't good enough. I knew it was coming. The betrayal, the abandonment. Men like Marcus always reveal themselves eventually. So I prepared. This inheritance has protection structures in place. Marcus has no claim to it. None. It's yours alone, structured in trusts that divorce cannot touch. The properties are held in LLCs. The investments are in accounts under maiden name. Everything is separate. Everything is safe. And I've left you more than money. I've left you weapons. In the safe deposit box, you'll find complete documentation of all assets, contact information for James Park, my estate attorney, contact information for Catherine Zhao, my financial advisor, evidence I compiled about Marcus and his family. Yes, evidence. When I got suspicious, I hired a private investigator. I documented everything, the affair, the financial planning to drain your accounts, the conversations between Marcus and his parents about manipulating you. I have proof, my daughter. Proof that will help you in divorce proceedings. Proof that will show exactly who your husband really is. Use it wisely. Now here's what you need to do. 1. Contact James Park immediately. He's been managing my estate for 20 years. He knows everything. Trust him completely. 2. Don't tell Marcus about the inheritance. Not yet. Let him think he won. Let him get comfortable. Take time to learn about your assets. Understand what you own. Knowledge is power. 4. When you're ready, when you're strong enough, show him what he lost. Show everyone. 5. Don't seek revenge. Seek justice. There's a difference. Remember, my clever girl, the Jiang women don't break. We wait, we plan, we execute. Marcus thinks he destroyed you. He thinks you're helpless, vulnerable, weak. He has no idea what's coming. I wish I could be there to see his face when he realizes, when he understands that the poor woman he abandoned was worth more than he'll ever make in 10 lifetimes. But you'll be there, and you'll be strong, and you'll be free. I love you more than words can express. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Now go show the world what a Jiang woman can do when she stops being kind and starts being smart. All my love. Mama Sarah read the letter 3 times. Then she put her head down on the table and cried, but these weren't tears of grief or despair. They were tears of rage, of vindication, of overwhelming relief. Her mother had known, had planned, had protected her. And now Sarah had everything she needed to fight back. She wiped her eyes, stood up, walked back into the main bank lobby. Thomas looked up expectantly. "I need to see the box," Sarah said. Her voice was steady, strong. "And then I need you to give me James Park's direct line. We have work to do." Thomas smiled. "Your mother said you'd say exactly that. Right this way, Mrs. Chen." They went down to the vault. Sterile, cold, rows of boxes in perfect lines. Box 447 was larger than Sarah expected. Thomas inserted his key. Sarah inserted hers. The box opened. Inside were folders, dozens of them, each labeled meticulously. Real estate portfolio investment accounts. Business holdings evidence. Marcus Chen evidence. Chen family legal protocols. Strategic recommendations. Sarah pulled out the evidence folder first. Inside were documents that made her blood run cold. Bank statements showing Marcus had been moving money to offshore accounts for 6 months. Emails between him and Victoria planning the affair, dating back 14 months, before Sarah even got pregnant. Text messages between Marcus and his mother discussing handling the Sarah problem. And photos. The investigator had been thorough. Marcus and Victoria at restaurants, at hotels, in his office after hours, kissing, touching, building a relationship while Sarah was home, pregnant, alone. At the bottom of the folder was a final document, a note from the investigator. Mrs. Zhang, per your request, I documented everything. The affair began February 2024. The pregnancy Ms. Kane claims is false. She has never been pregnant. Medical records attached prove she's not pregnant now. The marriage proposal was calculated to coincide with your declining health. Mr. Chen and his family planned this systematically. They believed Mrs. Chen had no resources, no power, no options. They were wrong. All documentation is admissible in court. Detective Michael Torres. Victoria's pregnancy was fake. Sarah sat down hard on the floor of the vault. The whole thing had been a lie, a manipulation. Victoria had never been pregnant. She'd used a fake pregnancy to lure Marcus away, and Marcus, stupid, arrogant Marcus, had believed it. And Sarah's mother had known, had documented everything, had left her daughter the ammunition to destroy them all. Sarah pulled out her phone, dead. The shelter volunteer was still waiting outside. Mr. Liu, Sarah said, I need to make a phone call. Use my office. Use anything you need. Sarah went to his office, dialed the number on James Park's card. He answered on the second ring. James Park. Mr. Park, this is Sarah Chen, Catherine Zhang's daughter. A pause. Then his voice changed. Warmer, sad, but expectant. Sarah, I've been waiting for your call. I'm so sorry about your mother. She was an extraordinary woman. She left me everything. She did. All 800 million done. More importantly, she left you the tools to protect it. I need to see you. Today. Now. I'm in my office. 77 West Wacker Drive, Suite 4200. How soon can you be here? Sarah looked at the clock. 11 a.m. 1 hour? I'll clear my schedule. Sarah? Yes? Your mother prepared for this day for years. Everything you need is ready. All you have to do is be strong enough to use it. I'm ready. Good. Because what we're about to do is going to change your life. Sarah hung up, looked at Thomas. I need a car, she said. Can you arrange that? Your mother had an account for such contingencies. I'll have our driver take you wherever you need to go. Thank you. Sarah gathered all the folders from the safe deposit box. Put them carefully in a leather briefcase Thomas provided. As she was leaving, Thomas called after her. Mrs. Chen? Yes? Your mother used to say something every time she made a major investment. She'd say, patience is the Zhang family superpower. I think you're about to understand what she meant. Sarah smiled, actually smiled, for the first time in a week. Mr. Liu, I'm about to show my ex-husband exactly what patience can do. Scene 2. The attorney meeting. 2,500-3,500 words. The law offices of Park & Associates occupied the entire 42nd floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Lake Michigan, the skyline stretching in every direction like a promise. Sarah stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb. Her reflection in the polished brass looked foreign. Pregnant woman in an ill-fitting dress, clutching a briefcase full of evidence that proved she was worth $800 million. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. The reception area was exactly what Sarah expected from a high-end estate law firm. Marble floors, modern art on the walls, a receptionist who looked like she belonged in a fashion magazine. "Mrs. Chen?" The receptionist stood immediately. "Mr. Park is expecting you, right this way." They walked down a hushed corridor. Thick carpet, mahogany doors with brass nameplates. The kind of place where wealth whispered instead of shouted. James Park's office was at the end of the hall. Corner office. The best view. The receptionist knocked once, opened the door. "Mrs. Chen for you, Mr. Park." James Park stood from behind his desk. He was exactly as Sarah remembered from her mother's funeral. Mid-60s, silver hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. But there was warmth there too. Kindness. "Sarah." He came around the desk, took her hand in both of his. "Thank you for coming so quickly. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Water? Tea? Water, please." He poured from a crystal carafe, handed her a glass, sat across from her in one of the leather chairs, not behind his desk, but beside her. Equal footing. "I imagine you have questions," he said gently. "So many I don't know where to start." "Start wherever feels right. We have time." Sarah took a breath. "Did you know? About the money? The whole time my mother was alive?" "I did. I've been your mother's attorney for 23 years. I structured every acquisition, every investment, every trust. I knew exactly what she was building. And you never told me. She asked me not to. Made me promise, actually." James leaned forward. "Sarah, your mother loved you more than anything in this world. Everything she did was to protect you. By lying to me? By giving you space to develop without the burden of wealth, without being targeted for it." James paused. "May I tell you a story?" Sarah nodded. "When your mother first came to me in 2001, she was worth about $12 million. Significant money, but not uncommon in Chicago. She wanted to establish trusts for you, protect her assets, ensure you'd be taken care of if something happened to her. I remember. I was in college. She said it was just life insurance stuff. It wasn't. It was the beginning of a comprehensive wealth protection strategy." James stood, walked to the window. "But something happened during our initial meetings. Your mother met with another client of mine in the elevator. Gregory Walsh, extremely wealthy, old Chicago money. I don't know him. You wouldn't. He died 5 years ago. But back then he was going through a vicious divorce. His wife of 20 years was taking him for everything. She'd married him for his money, waited until the prenup expired, then filed for divorce and started spending like there was no tomorrow." James turned back to Sarah. "Your mother saw Gregory that day, saw how broken he was, saw how money had ruined his life, and she made a decision. To hide her wealth from me. To protect you from becoming a target. To let you choose a husband without your wealth influencing his decision." James sat back down. "She wanted you to be loved for yourself, not for what you could provide." Sarah's throat tightened. "And look how that turned out. Actually, it worked exactly as planned. My husband left me, at my mother's funeral, while I'm pregnant. How is that?" He revealed who he truly was. James interrupted gently. "If you'd been openly wealthy, Marcus would have never left. He would have stayed, taken your money, controlled you through your own assets. You would have spent decades in a loveless marriage, never knowing if he loved you or your bank account. Sarah went still. Instead, James continued, Marcus showed you exactly who he is when there's no financial incentive to stay. He's a cruel, selfish man who values money over love. And now you know. Better now than 20 years from now. It doesn't feel better. I know. But Sarah, you're free now. Free of him. Free of his family. Free to build a life with people who love you for yourself. James pulled out a folder. And you have resources to do it. Unlimited resources. He opened the folder. Inside were documents Sarah couldn't quite comprehend. Pages of numbers, legal jargon, property descriptions. Your mother's estate is structured brilliantly. Everything is held in a series of LLCs and trusts. Your name is nowhere on public records. Marcus can't trace any of it. Neither can his lawyers. Is that legal? Completely. Your mother was scrupulous about following the law. She just used it to her advantage. James pulled out a specific page. Here's what you need to know. He pointed to different sections as he explained. First, real estate. Your mother owns 42 properties across 3 states, commercial buildings in Chicago's Loop, apartment complexes in Evanston and Oak Park, office buildings in downstate Illinois. Most of them have been held for 15 to 20 years. They generate approximately $2.8 million monthly in rental income. Sarah's head spun. $2.8 million every month? Every month. That's your passive income. You don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. It just accumulates. Second, investments. Your mother owns significant stakes in 12 different companies. Tech stocks she bought in the early 2000s, Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft. She never sold, just held and watched them grow. Current value, $220 million. Third, business holdings. Your mother was a silent partner in 17 different small businesses, restaurants, tech startups, medical practices. She provided capital in exchange for equity. Most of them are now very successful. Combined value, $95 million. James closed the folder, looked at Sarah directly. Sarah, you are one of the wealthiest women in Chicago, and almost nobody knows it. Except you. Except me and Catherine Zhao, your mother's financial advisor. You'll meet her next week. She's been managing your mother's portfolio for 15 years. Sarah tried to process, failed. What am I supposed to do with all this? Whatever you want. Keep running it as is. Sell properties, start a foundation. The world is literally at your feet. I just want my daughter to have a good life. I want to be safe. She stopped, took a breath. I want Marcus to understand what he threw away. James's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Approval. Your mother anticipated that. He pulled out another folder, this one thicker, labeled Justice Protocol. She left specific instructions for what to do if you were ever betrayed by your husband. She called it her Justice Protocol. Of course she did. Despite everything, Sarah smiled. James opened the folder. Inside here is evidence your mother compiled over the past year. She hired Detective Michael Torres, former FBI, now private investigator. He documented Marcus's affair, his financial manipulations, his conversations with his family about controlling you. He pulled out specific documents. These are admissible in court. These will prove Marcus committed fraud during your divorce. He hid assets. He drained your joint account maliciously. He planned to manipulate custody to avoid child support. Sarah's hands clenched. He told me last night he'd fight for full custody. Said I was mentally unstable. He has no evidence of that. You have evidence of his cruelty. James set down a photo. Marcus and Victoria, clearly intimate, time-stamped from April 2024. This affair started long before he claims, long before Victoria's supposed pregnancy. Which is fake, Sarah said quietly. Correct. Victoria Kane has never been pregnant. Medical records prove it. She had a full gynecological exam 6 weeks ago as part of a regular checkup. Not pregnant then, not pregnant now. Why would she lie? Because Marcus makes good money. Because she wanted him. Because she's a calculated manipulator. James pulled out more documents. We have text messages where Victoria discusses the fake pregnancy with a friend. Quote, "The pregnancy is my insurance. Once I'm the mother of his child, I'm set for life." Sarah felt sick. She planned this. They both did. Marcus's parents too. James showed her emails. Linda and Robert Chen have been pressuring Marcus to divorce you for 8 months. They thought you were beneath his station. They actively encouraged the affair with Victoria because her family has connections they value. Her family? Victoria's father is Preston Kane. He owns Kane Industries, manufacturing, worth about $40 million, not huge, but significant. The Chens want that connection. They're social climbers, Sarah. You were never good enough for them because you appeared to have nothing. James leaned back. But here's the truly delicious irony. Your mother owns the building that houses Marcus's practice. Premier Cardiology rents space at 150 North Michigan Avenue. That's a Zhang property. Has been since 2008. Sarah's breath caught. I own his office building? You do. Through an LLC called Midwest Commercial Holdings. Marcus has no idea. Can I evict him? You can. But I'd suggest a different approach. James pulled out another document. Your mother also owns the company that provides Marcus's malpractice insurance. Midwest Medical Assurance. She purchased it 12 years ago. She owns his insurance company? Not the whole thing. Controlling share, 51%. Enough to influence policy. James smiled. If Marcus's policy were to be canceled for, say, undisclosed material changes in marital status affecting his professional standing, he couldn't practice medicine in Illinois. No insurance, no hospital privileges. Sarah stared at him. My mother was ruthless. Your mother was prepared. She saw who Marcus was before you did. And she made sure you'd have leverage if you ever needed it. James pulled out one more folder. But the best part? Marcus's student loans. He paid those off. No. He consolidated them with Premier Cardiology Group's creditors. The practice took over his $400,000 in medical school debt in exchange for a 5-year contract with salary caps. James showed her the document. $400,000 at 7% interest. He's been paying $3,500 monthly for 4 years. Okay. The loan is serviced through Zhang Financial Services, another company your mother owned. James's smile widened. If those loans were to be called due immediately, which the contract allows if the debtor experiences certain life changes like divorce, Marcus would owe $280,000 immediately. Can we do that? We can do whatever you want. The question is, should we? Sarah thought about it. Really thought about it. My mother said don't seek revenge. Seek justice. What's the difference? Revenge is about hurting them because they hurt you. Justice is about correcting imbalances, ensuring consequences match actions. What did my mother want? James pulled out a handwritten note from the bottom of the folder. Sarah recognized her mother's handwriting immediately. If my daughter is reading this, Marcus has betrayed her. Here's what I want. Don't destroy him. Just show him who you are. Let him see what he lost. Let him understand that the woman he called worthless was worth more than he'll ever achieve. That's justice. That's power. That's the Jiang way, Catherine. Sarah read it twice, folded it carefully, held it against her chest. She was smart, smarter than I ever knew. She was a genius, and she raised one. James gathered the documents. So here's what I propose. We have several options. We can, he counted on his fingers. 1, take this evidence, file it with the court, reopen your divorce case, and pursue maximum damages. Marcus could face criminal charges. You'd get everything you're owed plus punitive damages. 2, use the evidence strategically. Threaten to expose him unless he agrees to a fair settlement. Get what you deserve without public humiliation. 3, wait. Let him think he won. Then reveal your identity at a moment of maximum impact. Your mother called this strategic patience. Sarah looked out the window, 42 floors up. The city spread below her like a game board. If we wait, what happens? You take time to learn your assets, understand your portfolio. Meet with Catherine Zhao. Decide what kind of life you want. Meanwhile, Marcus will continue thinking you're helpless. He'll get comfortable, arrogant. And then, when you're ready, when you're strong and prepared and absolutely certain, you show him. Show everyone. Walk into his life like you own it. Because you do. Sarah turned back to James. My mother wanted option 3, didn't she? She did. She said you'd need time to grow into your power. That rushing would waste the opportunity. How long did she think I should wait? She suggested 6 to 8 months. Let your daughter be born. Recover, learn, then strike. Sarah put her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, strong, determined. I want option 3, Sarah said quietly. But I want to add something. What's that? I want to attend Marcus's wedding. James's eyebrows rose. To Victoria? He invited me. He wants me to see him happy, to see what I lost. Sarah's smile was cold. I think I should accept that invitation. Don't you? James's answering smile matched hers. Your mother would be so proud. They spent the next 3 hours going through details. Sarah signed paperwork, not as Sarah Chen, but as Sarah Jiang, reclaiming her maiden name legally. James explained it was part of the protection strategy. Your married name appears on nothing. All your mother's assets list you as Sarah Jiang. Marcus can search public records until he's blue in the face. He'll find nothing under Sarah Chen. They discussed timelines. Catherine Zhao would meet with Sarah next week to explain the financial portfolio in detail. James would file papers to reopen the divorce case, quietly, just establishing the paperwork for later. We're not moving yet, James explained. Just preparing. Getting everything ready so when you decide to act, we can move fast. They discussed living arrangements. You can't stay at the shelter, James said firmly. Your mother owned a residence specifically for situations like this. It's been empty for 2 years, kept maintained just in case you ever needed it. Where? Lincoln Park. 3-bedroom townhouse. Fully furnished. Security system. Private. Your mother bought it in 2018 under an LLC. She called it her safe house. For me. For you. She was always preparing, Sarah. Always 3 steps ahead. James pulled out keys. The address is on the tag. The utilities are on. The refrigerator is stocked. I had my assistant handle that this morning when you called. You can move in today. Sarah took the keys, heavy, real. I don't know how to thank you. Thank your mother. Thank yourself for being strong enough to use what she left you. James stood, extended his hand. Welcome to the next chapter of your life, Sarah Zhang. It's going to be extraordinary. Sarah left the law office at 4 p.m. The driver took her to the Lincoln Park address, a beautiful brownstone on a tree-lined street that looked like something from a magazine. She unlocked the door, stepped inside. The townhouse was perfect. Hardwood floors, modern kitchen, comfortable furniture, windows that let in golden afternoon light. In the master bedroom, Sarah found a note on the bed. Her mother's handwriting. Welcome home, my clever girl. Rest now. Heal, learn. And when you're ready, show them all what you're made of. Love always. Mama Sarah sat on the bed, put her head in her hands, and cried. But these were different tears. Not grief, not despair, relief, gratitude. And underneath it all, a slow-building rage that would fuel everything that came next. Marcus thought he'd won. He had no idea the game had just begun. And Sarah was playing with a full deck. His was missing every card that mattered. Maggie was with Diane today. Sarah wanted to do this alone. She knelt in front of the stone, put her hand on the cold granite. Hi, Mama. It's been a year. The wind rustled through bare trees. December cold. Just like that day. I did it. Everything you wanted. I used the money. I built the foundation. I told the truth. I didn't break. Sarah's voice cracked. Marcus is gone. His life is ruined. But you know what? I don't feel good about that. I feel empty. Like winning shouldn't feel this hollow. She wiped her eyes. But Maggie is perfect. She's healthy and happy, and she'll never know poverty or fear or what it's like to be dismissed. And I'm okay. Not great yet, but okay. Learning, growing, becoming someone you'd be proud of. A bird landed on the headstone, looked at Sarah, flew away. I miss you every day, every single day. I wish you'd met Maggie. She has your eyes, your determination, your strength. Sarah stood, adjusted her scarf against the cold. I'll keep going, keep building, keep honoring what you created. And I'll make sure Maggie knows who you were, what you did, how you protected us even after you were gone. Thank you, Mama, for everything. For the money, yes, but more for teaching me that worth isn't about being seen. It's about being strong. I love you. Sarah walked back to her car. Thomas was waiting. She'd kept him on. He'd been loyal to her mother for years. He deserved to continue that service. Home, Mrs. Zhang? Home. Epilogue, 5 years later, 2030. Sarah sat in her home office. She'd bought a larger house in 2027. When Maggie needed more space, the Lincoln Park townhouse had served its purpose. Now she needed something bigger. The new house was in Kenilworth. Estate, grounds, pool, everything she'd once thought impossible. Maggie was 5 years old now, in kindergarten. Brilliant, funny, kind. She'd asked about her father once. Mama, why don't I have a daddy? Sarah had knelt down, looked her daughter in the eye. You have a father. His name is Marcus. But he made choices that meant he couldn't be part of our life. Did he not want me? I don't know what he wanted, baby. But I know what you have. You have me. You have Aunt Diane. You have a whole team of people who love you. Is that enough? More than enough. Maggie had accepted it. Children were resilient that way. Sarah's foundation had grown. $150 million endowment now, helping thousands of women every year. She'd expanded into education, healthcare, housing, making real, measurable differences. She'd been named one of Chicago's top philanthropists. Forbes 400. The recognition didn't matter much, but the impact did. She'd also started mentoring young women, teaching them about money, about power, about navigating spaces built to exclude them. Your worth isn't determined by who sees it, she'd tell them. It's determined by you. Own it, protect it, use it wisely. She'd heard about Marcus occasionally. Through mutual acquaintances, through the grapevine, he'd rebuilt somewhat, working at a smaller practice, living modestly, alone. He'd tried to reach out to Maggie on her 5th birthday, sent a card. Sarah had kept it, sealed. She'd give it to Maggie when she was older, let her decide if she wanted contact. But for now, they were building a life that didn't include him. And that was okay. One evening, Sarah was reading Maggie a bedtime story. Their ritual. "Mama, tell me about Great-Grandma Catherine." Sarah smiled. She told this story often. Great-Grandma came to America with nothing, just $200 and a dream. She worked hard, saved every penny, and she built an empire. An empire. A business empire. Properties, investments, money, enough to take care of us forever. Why did she hide it? Because she was smart. She knew that sometimes the best protection is being underestimated. What's underestimated mean? It means people thought she was small, unimportant, weak. But she wasn't. She was the strongest person I ever knew. Like you, Mama? Sarah's throat tightened. I'm trying to be. Every day. Maggie yawned. I want to be strong like you and Great-Grandma. You will be, baby. You already are. Sarah tucked her in, kissed her forehead, turned out the light. She stood in the doorway, watching her daughter sleep. This was the legacy. Not the money, not the revenge, not the vindication. This, a child who would grow up knowing her worth, who would never doubt her value, who would be strong and kind in equal measure. Sarah walked to her own bedroom. Her mother's photo was on the nightstand. We did it, Mama. We're okay. She climbed into bed, closed her eyes. And for the first time since that terrible December day 5 years ago, Sarah Chen, Sarah Zhang, slept without nightmares. She'd survived. She'd thrived. She'd won. Not because she destroyed Marcus, but because she became exactly who her mother had always known she could be. Strong, wise, unstoppable. A Zhang woman.